Good afternoon, crafty peeps. Welcome to our fourth Craftology box tutorial for March. We're using our SunKissed paper by Graphic 45. So today we're going to be making a suitcase accordion mini album, okay? And you're going to need 2 sheets of paper, okay? And it's going to be your 12 by 12 cardstock, but you're going to cut it down to 11 1/4 by 10 1/4. That's your first one. That's going to be for your top. And for your bottom, I even wrote down bottom so that I would remember which one it is. It's going to be 11 1/8 by 10 1/8. Okay? So let's just start off with the piece of paper that we have now. So on the 11 1/8 inch side, which is our bottom, and you can go ahead and mark yours because you're going to cover that up with paper anyway. So this is Tamara's 12 by 12 linen cardstock. So on the 11 1/8 inch side, you're going to score at 2.5, and then 8 5/8, which is 1 tick after the 1/2 inch. Okay. Then you're going to turn it back onto the 10 1/8 inch side, and you're going to score again at 2.5, but this time you're going to score at 7 5/8. Okay. Then we're going to put this to the side, and we're going to do our top. Okay. This paper, as we said, is 11 1/4 by 10 1/4. On the 11 1/4 inch side, we're going to score at 2.5 and 8 3/4. Turn it to the 10 1/4 inch side, and you're going to score at 2.5 and 7 3/4. Okay, so now we're going to marry these pieces together so that it looks something like this. Okay. Hold on. But I want your top piece, which this is actually our top piece, is going to have these little pieces on here. So let's cut off what we need to cut. So on my right hand side, I'm going to go to my score line, and I'm going to make sure I'm cutting down the center. And then I'm going to go to that first score line. Okay. Then I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to go to that first score line. Now for this one, I can cut off these 2 squares, okay? So I'm going to cut that off. And make sure you cut off the complete score line, okay? So you don't want any of those divots or impressions, okay? Then we're going to flip it over. Well, not really flip it over, just flip it around. And this time we're going to leave these 2 on here. But we are going to cut from here to the first score line. And then, oops, make sure I have it still in place. Okay. And then to this score line. Okay. Now I am going to cut out that score line piece so that my thing will fold over and fold over smoothly. So that's what I could put it. Okay. Now if you want to, you can flip it over and fold it on the score lines. Oops, see, I need to cut this bottom too. Forgot about that. Don't want that stuff in my way. I mean, you can tell if it's going over your score line, that means you need to trim off a little bit. Okay. Okay. So now it should look something like this. I'm just making sure it's even. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue this together here. Don't forget to burnish it in. Make sure it's all glued in there nice and tight. Sorry guys, I need my mat. I don't want to get any glue on my scoreboard. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here. Oops. Okay. Line it up. And burnish it in. So now your top should look something like this, okay? Now we're going to put this to the side and we're going to start working on our bottom piece. Okay, and we're going to follow along the same things, except that on this one we can cut off all our 4 squares. Okay? And just gently do it. And this time I'm even cutting off my little score lines right now, so I don't have to do it later. Actually, I do need to do this one a little bit. I missed it. I missed the buck by a sliver. Okay. I'm going to sing on this side too. Boy, I thought I was doing good. And I can see that I missed a sliver right here. Very tiny sliver, but it's still there. Okay. I'm just going to keep on going, cutting off my little corners here. Okay. And again, clean up anything you need to clean up, okay? So, if you need to clean up some of these edges, do that now. And I'm going to make sure this is, yep, 2.5 and 2.5. Okay. So now we can marry our 2 pieces together. But what I want you to do is the one side, you're going to have to take off about 1/8 of an inch, okay? And I already did take some off this one, but still I'll do another 1/16 of an inch, okay? And that's off your wide side, shall I say, not this side. Okay. Sorry, let me move all this out of the way real quick. And put that in the trash. Okay. Oops, and I want you to go ahead and fold your score lines, okay? Get those ready. Okay, again, smaller side that you cut off the 1/16 of an inch. I want you to line it up here. Now, because your bottom of your box is a slightly shorter than the other one, so you can see about a 1/16 of an inch and a 1/16 of an inch. That is correct. And you're going to want to line this up here. Let me just double check. Make sure it's even again. Yes, it is. I'm going to hold that into place and start gluing. Make sure you get that glue all the way up to the edge. You can always clean it up. Okay, and burnish it in. There we go. Okay, now your box should look something like this. So your top is bigger and your bottom is shorter. So here we go. This is how it should look when you open it, okay? And that's exactly what I want to happen. Your hinge is going to be right, well, I'm sorry, we're going to do an accordion. So your hinge is actually going to be on the bottom here, okay? But now it'll open up nicely. If you want to add magnets here, you can at this point. I don't think I'm going to. Let me see here. You know what? Maybe I better add some magnets just in case. So for me, it's kind of easier to do it on the inside, but you can do yours on the outside if you want to. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to start over here. All right, I apologize. So I'm going to start off with my magnets over here. I'm going to do one there. Oops. See, my magnets are rolling. And then one right here. Okay, so now at the bottom of our box, the part that actually opens up, I want you to go ahead and add 3 magnets, okay, on the inside pages. This way it is easy for you to tell when you're closing it where your magnets are going to be placed. So you can see we have bottom of the box. And watch this, it's just gonna, okay, so we want to actually push the box into place so that when you get your magnet, it will go right where it needs to go. Sorry, hold on. See, I'm holding it down where it's closed. There we go. Okay, again this side, holding it in place. into place. Because if I don't do this, the box is not going to close correctly. So it's just easier to do it like this. Okay. So now we can let that dry for a minute, and then we can open our box back up. We just don't want to mess with it while it's not dry. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I want to explain this. So when covering the box, I decided, since I don't have enough of the same color of the 12 by 12 paper, I'm going to actually do this whole top and sides with this orange color, and then I'll layer it with the sand dollar paper. Okay, but on the bottom, I'm only going to be able to fit this on here, for instance. And I was also thinking if I made this too thick, that I may run into some issues. So I decided that I'm not going to double paper the bottom, flaps, okay, but everywhere else, and I'm not going to double on the inside as well, okay. So I'll give you the measurements for these, and if you just want to do it one time, then you only need to use these measurements right here, okay. So you're going to need 2 at 2 3/8 by 6 1/16. So basically, I cut it to 6 1/8, and then I cut off a 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so you'll need 2 of those, and then you'll need 2 at 5 1/8 by 2 1/4. Okay, 2 of those. And then you're going to need 2 at 6 1/8 by 5 inches. Okay, it's almost at 5, and it was 5 1/8. So hold on. You're gonna need one at 6 1/8 by 5 1/8, and then for this one you're going to cut off a 1/16 of an inch. Okay, on this side and this side. So basically. And then for the bottom, it's going to be 6 inches by 5 inches, okay? And then all you have to do is glue these on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me do my bottom piece. Let me make sure I have my smaller one. Yeah. Okay. And I'm just going to line it up and burnish it in. And then I'll just keep on working my way along the top pieces, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I just want to show you this really quick. I have the outside of my box papered. For the second set of paper, this is only if you want to double it up. I just went about an eighth of an inch shorter around 2 of the sides, okay, for my last measurement. So anyway, on the inside, I know you're tempted to paper it, but don't do it yet because we need to put on our little buckles for our suitcase, okay? And also our handle. So let's get started on that. So for the buckles, you're going to need 8 sheets of cardstock. And again, I'm using Tamara's linen cardstock. It's going to be 5/8 inches. So that is a 1 tick above the 1/2 inch. So, and then 1 below the 3/4 inch. Anyway, by 12 inches. Then I want you to glue these together. All right. And then you should end up with 4 at this point. Now, this is up to you. If you want to, angle your edges, which I'm probably going to do mine at kind of like a small little V, you know, basically looking like a belt buckle and, well, a belt. And then also I'm going to use a embossing folder, and I'm also going to spray mine brown, or I may use the Tim Holtz vintage inks. Anyway, I will be right back. Okay, let me get that done, and then I will show you what mine looks like before I attach it. Okay. Okay, crafty peeps, so I have mine ready to go. Again, this was a 5/8 inch by 12 inches. And then I used an embossing folder that I got from Hobby Lobby that looks like postage stamps or seals, vintage ones. And so I thought it'd be pretty cute. The ink that I used was this Distress Stain Walnut Stain by Tim Holtz. And then I used my clear gloss over this. So let me kind of explain what I did. So I got out my graphic ruler, or you might have a Tim Holtz one or whatever, and I measured 1 inch. So the center of this was 1 inch, and I took a pencil and I drew a line basically on all the way around this. Okay, on both sides, 1 inch and 1 inch, and let me show you what I did here. I basically start from the back, okay, because I do not want to cover this up because then my box won't open. So I'm going to start off here. I'm just going to line it up here, make sure it lines up. Grab my art glitter glue. Okay. And if you want to score it, you can. I didn't. I just basically folded it on the, you know, the lines. Not the lines, but the edges. So I'm just going to hold this down for a second, press down. Don't press too hard because we don't have our inside papered yet. Still naked. And then we're just going to bend this over. Okay. Because now we've made this stiff because I basically have 2 of these on one thing. Okay. And then I'm going to add some more glue. I'm just following right along that line. Here's the line, and oops, guys, I messed up. Whoa, nope, I am in trouble now. Shoot, I should have gone on the inside line. What was I thinking? Crud, hold on. Okay, I'm not even going to delete my boo-boo, okay, because I want to show you if you make a boo-boo, how you can fix it. So I basically had an 8x8 paper pad. Yes, it's a little bit smaller in pattern, but to be honest with you, I don't really think that too many people are going to notice, except for y'all who are watching this. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add this on here now on the right spot. So make sure you do it on the inside of your line. You gotta love those days. There we go. Okay, now that is the right way. And see, I think you can barely tell. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Holding that in there. And continue. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to move my little light up here so I can see a little bit better. That might be helpful. Okay. And I'm just going to hold it into place. And it looks okay. There's just a little bit of distress stain here, but when I get all done with this, I am actually going to distress it a little bit more. I probably wasn't going to originally, but now I am. Okay. So now we have our other strips left, okay? So what I want you to do is, because we can go ahead and let me just double check this measurement and I'll be right back. Okay, so I wanted to mention, hopefully you're watching this video first before you start, but for the straps, I could not find the vintage little belt buckles that I had gotten when I lived in Texas. I don't know what I did with them, but I just searched for like 45 minutes, and so I ended up finding my Tim Holtz. So for me, I end up having to trim down off about 1/8 of an inch. So I do want to say that you may want to consider your belt buckle size before you determine this width. So it ends up being about 1/2 inch, okay, for the Tim Holtz, okay? So what I'm going to do is I went ahead and I inked along the sides again where I trimmed off, re-rounded my edges, and I am going to line this up again. Oh, I forgot to give you the measurement here. This was, again, like I said, 1/2 inch by 6. And I'm okay with this being a little bit smaller than this. It looks fine to me. If you want to bring this all the way up, you do have some extra here that you could do that. And so there would be literally like almost no difference. In fact, I may do that. What is this measurement? About a little less than 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and glue that on here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I added on those little extra pieces, and I am going to line this up and center it and glue it on here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm going to measure that up, center it. And just so you know, the way I'm designing mine, you will never have to unbuckle it. But you could literally design yours however you want to. You can make it where it does need to buckle closed, but I think for the average person, that might be a little bit kind of complicating. Now for yourself, you know, as a crafter, probably not a big deal, but okay. So now it's going to look something like this, okay? So this will kind of bend a little bit, but that's okay. It's not going to deter from opening and closing. And then at this point, we're going to decide, where do we want our buckle? And I'm thinking right there is good. So let me grab my little We Are Memory Keepers punch. And I'm going to go with a smaller one, and I'm going to center it about a 1/2 inch. Okay. Hopefully that was not off camera. I'm just trying to figure out where my little buckle is going to go. Going to round this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to round this a little bit so that it slides through easily. Why do these look so strange? There we go. Okay, so at 4 1/8 inches is where my belt buckle needs to be glued down. So from the tip down in, let me move this out a little bit, sorry. So at 4 1/8, I'm going to go ahead and glue that on here and let it dry. And once it dries, then I can figure out where my holes need to go. Okay. So I'm just going to hold that down for a second, let it kind of set. It will set, just takes a minute. I'm just not used to this glue. Okay, and then my first hole from the tip is set at 1 inches. So I'm going to measure 1 inches. It's right about there. And oops, and then my second hole. Let's up a little bit more. I didn't get that exactly right, but I'm having one of those days. Yeah, I'm completely gonna have to let this dry, and I need to add more glue. All right, so I'm going to let that dry and then I will be back. Okay, so while I'm waiting, I'm going to show you how I basically did these. So you're going to take a round circle. This one is 1 and looks like 5/8. I'm sorry, 1 and 3/8. No, yeah, 1 and 3/8 inch. Duh. Okay. So anyway, this was just one of the spellbinder circle dies, but if you have a punch or whatever you can use, that's fine. So this is all I did is I basically folded it in half, and then I burnish it, and then I fold it in half again, and I match my score lines up to make sure it's straight. Okay. And then I'll show you for the top two, because you see the bottom of it has this little opening here. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry, my lighting kind of sucks. So this one I cut a little bit differently. So let me show you how I did the top first. So basically I just took my corner and then I pinched it and folded over. And then when I folded over, I had a little score line to cut. Okay. So kind of making like a little pie chart here. I basically just trimmed that out so that there wouldn't be so much to fold over. And then I glued it back in place. Okay. So I glued it here and then all throughout the whole entire thing. Now, because of my little space here, I want to go ahead and I'm going to cut on the score line. Okay. I'm going to cut out one square of my little pizza here. Okay. And I'm going to trim off a little extra because I want to make sure that it does not go over my little edge. So if you can see here, I want this to butt up against each other, right, you know, so that it'll still open, okay? And then, oops. Sorry, I have a pin in my mouth. Okay, now I can go ahead and glue it on. And I would have shown you with all four, but I want to make sure, because this is actually the first time I've done this, that it came out okay, and I really like how it turned out. Okay, so I'm still waiting for this one to dry. I ended up not putting my holes centered, so I had to start over again, but I'm actually going to need another one of these strips, which I apologize that I did not mention that earlier. Hello, we need a handle. So let's go ahead and create our handle. And the reason why I can't do it on the back of my suitcase is obviously, but you could actually, well, you could still do it. You could do half and then your little corner piece and glue it right on there. So that's completely up to you. Okay, and see where I boo-booed again? I don't know if you can tell, but anyway, I think it's really turning out cute though. I'm really just in love with this little project. So I might make more of these. In fact, I am, and see how it turns out. And then I will be back. And don't forget to make an extra piece for your handle, okay? Okay, so I grabbed my ruler, and this time I've got it all glued on here right, and until here. Okay, so what I did was I measured from the tip to the center at 1 inch, and then the difference between here and this other hole is about a 1/2 inch from the center of the hole. Okay. So it's really easy at this point. We're just going to slide it on in here. Okay. And then you're going to pull this little thing back. I don't know if whatever buckles you're going to use, but you know, you'll just kind of have to work with it and guesstimate. Okay. And then I just kind of pushed it down into place. And over here, I'm going to actually um, center this a little bit, and I'm literally going to glue this down, okay? Because I don't want it to lift at all. And once I get this down and push this back down, I can go ahead and glue this end as well. And then that's it. And I'll be right back. Okay, so for my handle, I ended up cutting this down to basically 5 1/8 inches, and I made it a little bit skinnier to 5/8 inches, so 5/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, I rounded my edges, and then I scored on each side at a 5/8 inch. Okay, so basically I just did 5/8, turn around, did 5/8. Okay, so now at this point, you're going to want to use a pen, okay? I know. Now, one thing I do want to be sure is that you're going to mark this at a little bit at, let's see, hold on. Let me see if this looks right. Huh. So I measured here. This should be at 1 1/2 inches. And somehow I missed the buck a little bit. Anyway, I'm just going to keep this because I don't want to make another mark. So you're going to do 1 1/2 and then in the center, and then 1 1/2 in the center, or, you know, basically wherever you feel like it. So now we're going to open up the inside of our box. And if your puncher goes all the way, which mine does not, I'm going to have to hand punch this, okay? Let's see here. Let me get a poker tool. I actually need a poker tool. Hold on, guys. Okay, it took me a couple minutes, but basically I started pressing through here and here, and then where I could see that it was coming through, I basically came in through this side just to make it a lot easier on myself because I was struggling. Okay, now I'm using 2 of the little green brads from This Was a Very Merry Christmas by Cartabella. That Tamara sent me in one of my design team packages. So, okay, now we're going to grab our handle again, and I'm just going to punch a small hole in the center. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. You know, just guesstimate it. Okay. Now we can line these up. Go on through there. Guess I'll start it off on one and then kind of push it through the other. Oops, one thing I do need to do is, because I forgot that I had trimmed these, let me do this real quick. I need to ink my edges. And by the way, I did end up doing the thing that I said I was going to do. I just went around the whole entire thing there. All right, let's try this one more time. Hopefully the green looks good. Yeah, it does actually. Okay, and then you can press it down. And usually what I do is I use some washi tape or just glue it down. That way it doesn't move a lot. Push it on through. And if you want to get yours rounded like mine, I basically just used my bone folder. I'm just kind of fixing this up a little bit. Oops. Better wipe that up. Don't want it to get on my box. And then also, I want to go around the corners where I added these here so that it kind of blends in real nice. So it's looking super duper cute now. Now I can finish papering the inside, and basically it's usually 1/8 smaller than the first measurement I gave you. In fact, I still need to ink some more. I'm just a little bit here. But it looks super duper cute. I'm loving it. Okay. And now you should be able to just manipulate this to, you know, basically how you want it. But that's my little handle so far. And now we'll finish the inside. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to paper here. I'm not putting anything here. I'm going to paper here, 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 and around these little corners. Do not paper here yet on this bottom piece. This is where we're going to be working on our accordion portion, and then I will be back. Okay guys, so this is how your suitcase should look so far. And I did say to put this little piece in here. I want you to go ahead and wait on that. So I'm going to try to edit that part of my tutorial so that y'all will understand what I'm doing here. Okay, so what I was thinking of was putting on the top of my suitcase piece a little pocket. So what I did is I got a scrap of my paper and also used my leftover scraps from our little wood connections paper that Tamara gave us. Okay, so anyway, and then I glued it on here, okay? So basically you're going to need 2 sheets of cardstock, 1 plain and 1 decorative at 6 1/8 by 5 1/8, okay? And if you want to ink your edges, go ahead and do that now because you will be gluing this down. But before you do that, we're going to make our little pocket piece. And this one's a little bit interesting. You can add on a little extra here if you want to, which is another 1/2 inch. But I didn't want to make this too thick, okay? So it's going to kind of lay on top of here. And then I'm going to glue these little edges right here. And I will actually remove these pieces, but I wanted to show you this first, okay? So I'm going to open this up, and your measurements are going to be 8 1/8 by 4 1/8, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to score at your 1/2 inch line, okay, on your 4 1/8 inch side. Now back to your 8 1/8 inch side, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and then you can flip it around and do the same thing. A 1/2 inch and 1 inch, okay? Then what I did is I folded mine over, and at 3 1/8 inches, you're going to make a pencil mark. Now this, you're going to, let me get out my ruler, sorry. Whoops. So at 3 1/8, make a mark, okay? And then you're also going to make a mark at about 3/4 inches, okay? So that would be right at the center of that hole, and then you're going to punch a hole. For your decorative cardstock, it's going to be 6 1/8 by 3 3/8. 6 1/8 by 3 3/8. And then basically what I did is I lined mine up where I wanted to have it. And then I took a pencil and marked it and then punched a hole. So easy to do that, or you can repunch the same hole. It's up to you. That's basically what I did. So now I'm going to go ahead and start gluing this on here. Let me just flatten this out a little bit, okay? Oh, and then also you're going to need one of your Tim Holtz doorknob things. Oh, and one more thing. I'm so sorry. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I had one of these little pieces left over, and you should too in your reserves. I always save my extras because I never know if I'm going to need them. So this is cut down to 3 7/8. Okay. And then I scored it at 1 inch. Then if you turn it around at 3/8 inch is where I made my mark in the center of this. And of course I did round my edges and then I re-inked around here. I also use glossy accents on both sides, although one side looks really glossy. Probably because I just did that one. Then I used my We Are Memory Keepers hole punch and punch where I made my little mark. Then what you're going to need to do is take your scissors and you're going to make a little slit. Okay, 1, 2, I've already made my slit, so I'm just pretending. 3, and then 4. So basically like in a cross, okay? And then now this will allow your little Tim Holtz piece to pop on through here, okay? So that's what you're going to need. Now, at this point, okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue this on like I said. Looks like I need to clean my little top here again. Every once in a while, I got to do that. All I do is just soak it in warm water. And then let it dry. Okay, so I'm just going to line this right up here. Oops, here we go. Burnish this in. Okay. Sorry, I'm grab my towel here. Now, at this point, we can go ahead and trim off right down here at this score line, these 2 little squares. And remember to cut right on the score line. That way you don't have any extra junk hanging off. Yeah, I did that one good. Now, this is up to you. If you want to do yours at an angle, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to, okay? I'm going to do a little angle. I always like to have a little extra, hand room to move in. Then you're going to take your Tim Holtz knob. Okay. And it looks like mine's a little stuck on here. Screwed in there pretty good. Okay. All right, guys, let me get that out and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I apologize for this, but my computer decided to do an update all of a sudden, and I wasn't paying attention to the screen, so I didn't know it was coming. Anyway, so I already had this put together, but I'm just going to try to explain this real quickly to you. So basically, what I did is I started off by taking my little accordion pocket, and I started off by gluing the bottom first, okay? And then once that was glued on and dried, I went ahead and flipped it over, and then I folded this back onto it, and I basically glued the flat side to the top of here on each side, and then I used some clips to let it dry because I wanted to make sure that it dried thoroughly. Then once that was dry, of course I did add this on. I forgot to mention that I have added this on before I glue this together. But then I took my little piece here that I talked about earlier, and I glued this on here first, and then I held it with a clip. Once it was dry, then I knew I could go ahead and, you know, push it down onto here. And so now it works like a little, you know, pocket thing. Now, if this bothers you, like it's bothering me right now, you may want to ink the inside of your paper, or if you have brown cardstock, which I am out of, you know, then you wouldn't have to worry about this. Or if you had like a dark sand color or something like that, then you wouldn't have to keep doing that. Anyway, I'm not going to push that down yet until it dries. So here is my, let me do it this way. You know what, maybe I will press it down. Hold on. I was just waiting for the ink to dry, but it should be dry by now. So we'll go ahead and push that baby down. Okay, at this point you can go ahead and glue this in here. And it's going to be kind of awkward because you have your belt buckles on the front. So you're going to have to kind of really glue it well and work quickly. Yikes! Okay, I'm not working fast, am I, guys? Because I keep dropping it. Especially add a lot of glue around here, around that piece, and your edges, so you will not have any lifting of any sort. Okay. Now my handle is at the top, and I'm going to put this in here right side up. And work quickly, guys. Work quickly. Burnish, burnish. Okay. Burnish all around. Probably would have been easier to do this without the little booklet in here, but we're going to work with it now that it's in here. Push it down, especially up at the top. Let me grab my dry towel because I'm going to start pushing really hard. You don't want to hurt any of your stuff. Hold it in your hand. Just make sure your corners are on there good. And if you don't trust yourself, add your glue in. Press it down and hold it. Okay, so this should work now. So guys, maybe you're not going to be able, you can add tags in here though for sure, and you'll have zero issues with that. I can guarantee that one. So now we know. Okay. It's looking super cute. And I always like to put photos on the back of my tags. So anyway, I'll be back in just a moment. Don't get rid of this. We'll end up using it in here instead because with our accordion fold, it'll be easy to pull this out and not have any issues with it getting stuck. So we'll be right back. Okay, so my video camera is being a real pain in the butt today, and also I wanted to give you a measurement to learn from my mistakes. So if you have 12 by 12 paper, you can do this little accordion fold very easily, okay? Let me see if I do this right. Yeah, okay. So what I want you to do is you're going to take your 12 by 12 sheet of paper and you are going to cut it at 5 inches, okay? So that should give you 2 of these, okay? So, and then you're going to score it at 6 inches. So basically, this little card here is 5 by 6, okay? So 5 by 6. And so this should hold your 4 by 5 photos, okay? Or, yeah, I think it's 4 by 5, okay? Anyway, I'm having one of those brain farts. But this is what we're going to do. Yeah, I want it to go in like this. So when you get your, open your box here, you're going to, so with this little, I call it the Pac-Man thing down, you're going to put it in here like this. But you're going to need some hinges, okay? So I would take 6 hinges. They're going to need to be 5 inches long by 1 inch. And then you're going to score at a 1/2 inch on the 1 inch side, okay? And then you will put those, you will glue them in between. So you're going to need one for the back. And then you're going to need them in between your pages here to connect these together to make it an accordion fold. And for some odd reason, I am off by 1. So, yes, okay. I'm sorry. So you want your Pac-Man side on the right side, if that makes any sense. I call this Pac-Man because it looks like a little mouth. And then this should open up like this, and you would just pull it out like so, okay? If you want to add more, you can, but when you add your photos and your paper, this is going to get thicker and thicker and raise it. So just be aware of that. And then what I want you to do is once you're ready, you can glue this down, okay, right at the very edge here. You're going to go in about 1/8 of an inch, not even 1/8 of an inch, just right inside the score line. Glue it down, and then you'll be able to add your paper on top of that, and then you can finally paper these last two. But what I'm going to do is before I put mine in here, I'm going to go ahead and paper my whole thing so I don't have to really mess with it. And then my very last page, I think I might make a little pocket out of this. Right here, I'll put a pocket, and then this will slide in there, and then this holds even more photos. So, let me go ahead and paper these. Again, I'm pretty much going to stay very true to the size, the 6 by 5. I'm going to cut all my pieces 6 by 5 and take off a 1/16 of an inch off the 6 inch side and the 5 inch side. So there's barely a difference between these. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have much of a, I don't want much of my paper showing through, shall I say. So I'll be right back.